Admiral James Walker stood at the main viewport of humanity's greatest secret, watching Neptune's swirling storms hide his massive ship. The UES Prometheus, all 15 kilometers of her, rested quietly in the gas giant's upper atmosphere, waiting for the right moment. Around him, the bridge crew worked in near silence, broken only by the soft beeping of sensor equipment and quiet status reports. "Admiral, we're getting a transmission from Earth Command," reported Officer Tom Reed, his fingers dancing across his communication panel. "The Drachnid fleet has crossed Mars orbit. They're broadcasting their message again." Walker nodded, his weathered face showing no emotion. "Put it on the main screen." The alien message played once more, just as arrogant as the first time they'd received it 3 days ago. The Drachnid ambassador, a tall creature with gray-scaled skin and multiple eye ridges, spoke in artificially translated English. "Primitive humans, this is your final warning. The Drachnid Collective rules over 300 star systems. Our technology is centuries ahead of yours. Your pitiful chemical rockets and basic ion engines are nothing compared to our quantum dry ships. Your weapons are toys against our energy shields. Surrender now, and we will be merciful. Resist, and we will turn your cities to glass." Walker allowed himself a small smile. The aliens had no idea that humanity had progressed far beyond chemical rockets and basic ion engines. The Prometheus was proof of that. While other nations had raced to copy alien technology after first contact 5 years ago, humanity had taken a different approach. They had studied alien weaknesses instead. "Status report," Walker ordered, turning to his tactical officer. "The Drachnid fleet maintains their arrowhead formation, sir," answered Lieutenant Mike Harris. 96 ships, mostly light cruisers. Their flagship is 3 kilometers long. There? He paused, checking his readings. "They're actually laughing at our orbital defense platforms. Their communication suggests they think our railguns are primitive projectile weapons." That was exactly what humanity had wanted them to think. For 5 years, they'd hidden their true capabilities. The orbital platforms were decoys, meant to reinforce the aliens' belief in human technological backwardness. Meanwhile, the real work had happened here, in Neptune's clouds. "Message from Earth Defense Command. Sir," Reed called out. "They're initiating Protocol Omega. We have authorization to proceed." Walker straightened his uniform and looked around the bridge. These men and women had trained for 3 years for this moment. They'd lived in secrecy, away from their families, all to maintain the element of surprise. The Prometheus herself was a masterpiece of misdirection. While humanity had shown the aliens only small ships with basic weapons, they'd been building this monster. "Engineering reports all systems ready," came the voice of Chief Engineer Bill Foster over the intercom. "The reactor is stable, and all weapon systems are charged." "Very well." Walker sat in his command chair, feeling the familiar comfort of its worn leather. "Send our response to the Drachnid ultimatum." The message they transmitted was short. No. Almost immediately, the alien fleet began moving toward Earth. Just as predicted, they maintained their tight formation, optimal for their energy weapons, but potentially disastrous against what humanity had planned. "They've taken the bait," Harris reported. "Their formation suggests they're not even bothering with point defense screens. They think our weapons are too primitive to hurt them." Walker pressed a button on his chair, opening a channel to the whole ship. "All hands, this is the Admiral. For 3 years, we've trained for this day. The Drachnids think they know what humanity is capable of. They think we're primitive, weak, and ready to surrender. Today, we proved them wrong." Battle stations. Throughout the massive carrier, alert klaxons began to sound. 15,000 crew members moved to their posts. In the massive hangar bays, fighter pilots ran to their craft. Gun crews manned the rail gun batteries that ran the length of the ship's hull. Point defense operators powered up their systems. The Prometheus began to rise through Neptune's atmosphere, her massive engines pushing against the gas giant's gravity. Soon, very soon, The Drachnids would learn that humanity's primitive technology was far more dangerous than they'd imagined. The trap was set. The hunters were about to become the hunted. The UES Prometheus was unlike anything humanity had ever built before. As engineer Bill Foster walked through the massive engine room, he couldn't help but feel proud. The aliens thought humans were still playing with simple rockets, but the truth was far more impressive. Status report. He called out to his engineering team, his voice echoing off the huge metal walls. All 15 fusion reactors are running at full power, sir, replied Assistant Engineer Jane Miller, checking her tablet. The backup systems are ready if we need them. Those alien scans still can't see through Neptune's storms to detect our heat signature. Foster nodded, walking over to the main control panel. The Prometheus was a marvel of human engineering. While the Drachnids focused on making their ships smaller and more efficient, humanity had gone the opposite way. They'd built bigger, stronger, and more powerful. The ship's numbers were incredible. 15 kilometers long, with armor plates 6 meters thick in some places. The main hangar bay could hold 500 fighters, with room for more in the secondary bays. The railgun batteries that ran along its sides could fire rounds the size of small cars, and there were dozens of them. Sir, called out technician Robert Green from his station. The aliens are broadcasting again. You should hear this. Foster walked over to the communication screen. The Drachnid ambassador was speaking to Earth's leaders again, and the aliens' arrogance made Foster shake his head. Your orbital stations are pathetic, the alien was saying. Simple metal shells with primitive guns. Where are your energy weapons? Where are your quantum shields? You're not even worth conquering. But the collective has spoken. Surrender or be destroyed. What the aliens didn't know was that humanity had studied their technology carefully. They'd learned that Drachnid shields were tuned to stop energy weapons like lasers and plasma bolts. But against good old-fashioned physical objects moving at high speed, they weren't nearly as effective. All engineers to testing stations. Foster ordered. We need to check every system one last time before we reveal ourselves. The engineering deck came alive with activity. Teams ran diagnostics on the massive engines, tested the point defense grid, and made sure all fighter launch systems were ready. The Prometheus might look simple to alien eyes, but she was anything but primitive. In the ship's mess hall, hundreds of crew members watched the alien broadcasts on large screens. They saw the Drachnid ships, elegant and sleek, moving through space with their purple energy fields glowing around them. The aliens thought their ships were the peak of technology. They were about to learn that sometimes bigger really was better. Did you see their flagship? One crew member asked another. They think 3 kilometers is impressive. Wait until they see us. The Prometheus had other surprises too. Its hull wasn't just thick, it was smart. Layers of reactive armor and shock absorbers could take hits that would destroy smaller ships. The point defense system was a work of art, with thousands of small railguns creating walls of metal that no missile could pass through. Foster's tablet beeped with a message from the bridge. Admiral Walker wanted all systems ready in 30 minutes. The engineer smiled. Everything was already prepared. They'd been ready for 3 years, hiding in Neptune's clouds, training and waiting for this moment. Final checks, everyone, Foster announced to his team. Soon we show the galaxy that humanity doesn't need fancy energy weapons or quantum shields. Sometimes the simple solutions are the best ones. Throughout the massive ship, 15,000 crew members stood ready. Fighter pilots waited in their cockpits, gun crews manned their stations, and medical teams prepared for battle. The Drachnids thought they were hunting primitive prey, but they were about to meet humanity's hidden giant. The Prometheus was more than just a big ship. She was humanity's answer to alien arrogance. And soon, very soon, the Drachnids would learn that lesson the hard way. Commander Ray Martinez watched from the bridge of his small destroyer as the Drachnid fleet pushed past Jupiter's orbit. His ship, the UES Defender, was just 200 meters long, tiny compared to the alien vessels. That was exactly what Earth Command wanted the aliens to see. Enemy ships maintaining their arrow formation, reported his sensor officer, Jack Wilson. They're not even trying to hide their power readings. They want us to see how strong they are. Martinez smiled. The Drachnids were playing right into their hands. His small fleet of 10 destroyers and 5 frigates looked pathetic compared to the alien armada. They were the perfect bait. All ships, battle formation. Martinez ordered over the comm. Remember the plan. Make it look good, but keep your distance. We want them to think they're scaring us. His ships spread out in what looked like a disorganized pattern. To alien eyes, it would appear that the humans didn't know basic space combat tactics. The truth was very different. The Drachnid commander's voice boomed across all channels. Look at them scatter like insects. Their ships are so small, they must be unmanned drones. No species would risk their people in such tiny vessels. The alien ships fired their energy weapons. Beautiful beams of purple light cut through space. Martinez's fleet dodged them easily. Another surprise for the aliens. They thought human ships would be slow and clumsy. "Sir," Wilson called out. "They're transmitting to their home fleet. They're laughing at us, calling our ships metal coffins and mocking our evasive maneuvers." "Perfect," Martinez said. "Send the signal to Admiral Walker. Tell him the Drachnids are completely focused on us. They haven't even looked at their long-range sensors." The battle continued, looking like a cat playing with mice. The human ships fired their railguns, carefully missing the alien vessels. Each shot made the Drachnids laugh harder. Their shields flickered with purple energy, not even at full power. "Their commander is sending another message," Wilson reported. "He says we're wasting our time with primitive kinetic weapons, and that we should surrender before we embarrass ourselves further." Martinez checked his tactical display. The alien fleet had moved exactly where Earth Command wanted them. They were now perfectly positioned between Jupiter and Saturn, their formation tight and ordered, ready to strike the final blow against Earth's pathetic defenders. "All ships, begin Phase 2, Martinez ordered. "Fall back toward Earth. Make it look like we're running scared." His small fleet turned and fled, engines burning bright. Behind them, the alien ships followed, their crews probably already celebrating their easy victory. They had no idea they were about to meet the Prometheus. "Incoming transmission from Neptune sector," Wilson said, trying to hide his excitement. "Admiral Walker reports Operation Thunderstrike is go. The Prometheus is rising." Martinez allowed himself a moment to imagine the scene. The massive supercarrier, hidden for 3 years in Neptune's storms, was about to reveal itself. The Drachnids, focused entirely on chasing his small fleet, hadn't even noticed the giant ship's movement. "Sir," Wilson called out, "the aliens have detected something near Neptune. They're dismissing it as a storm pattern. They think their sensors are being confused by the planet's atmosphere." The trap was almost ready. Martinez's fleet continued their retreat, drawing the alien armada into the perfect position. Soon, very soon, the Drachnids would learn what a real human warship looked like. "All hands," Martinez announced to his crew, "prepare for Phase 3. The real battle is about to begin. Let's show these aliens why you should never underestimate humanity." Behind the alien fleet, far in the distance, a massive shadow began to emerge from Neptune's clouds. The Prometheus was coming, and she was bringing humanity's surprise with her. Lieutenant Emma Stone sat in her fighter cockpit, heart pounding as the massive launch bay doors of the Prometheus began to open. Through the gap, she could see the stars, and in the distance, the purple glowing ships of the Drachnid fleet. "All fighter squadrons, prepare for launch," came the calm voice of flight control. "Remember your training. They won't expect us to have this many ships." Emma looked around the enormous hangar bay. 500 fighters lined up in perfect rows, their pilots ready. The aliens thought humans only had small, weak ships. They were about to get a big surprise. "Squadron leaders, sound off," flight control ordered. "Red squadron, ready. Blue squadron, ready. Gold Squadron, ready. One by one, 25 squadron leaders reported in. Emma, leading Green Squadron, waited her turn. Green Squadron, ready for launch. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Admiral Walker watched his tactical display as the carrier rose fully from Neptune's atmosphere. The Drachnid fleet was still chasing Commander Martinez's small ships, completely unaware of what was behind them. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Harris, "the alien ships have finally noticed us on their sensors. They're trying to recalibrate their equipment. They don't believe our size readings are correct." The first confused messages from the alien fleet began coming in. Their elegant ships began to turn, breaking their perfect formation for the first time. Through the bridge viewport, Walker could see their purple shields flickering as they powered up to full strength. By the collective came the panicked voice of the Drachnid commander. "That's impossible. No ship can be that large. Our sensors must be malfunctioning." But the Prometheus was very real, and she was about to prove it. Walker gave the order they'd all been waiting for: launch all fighters. In the launch bay, Emma felt her heart skip as the countdown began. Her fighter's engines hummed to life, power flowing through the craft. Unlike the aliens' energy weapons, her ship carried good old-fashioned missiles and a railgun. "Green Squadron, you are go for launch," Flight Control announced. Emma's fighter shot forward, launching into space alongside 24 others. Behind her, more squadrons followed. Wave after wave of human fighters poured from the Prometheus's launch bays, forming up into attack formations. The Drachnid fleet was in chaos. Their tight formation, perfect for energy weapon battles, was now a dangerous weakness. Hundreds of human fighters approached them from behind, while Commander Martinez's ships turned to attack from the front. "Look at their formation scatter," Emma called to her squadron. "They don't know how to handle this many small targets." The Prometheus itself was now fully visible, its massive form blocking out the stars behind it. 15 kilometers of human engineering, built to take hits and keep fighting. The alien ships looked like toys compared to it. "All squadrons, attack pattern Delta," Emma ordered. "Pick your targets and remember, their shields are weakest against physical weapons." 500 human fighters struck at once. Missiles streaked across space. Railgun rounds flashed past each other. The Drachnid's purple shields flared as they tried to stop the assault, but they weren't designed for this kind of attack. On the Prometheus's bridge, Walker watched with satisfaction as the alien fleet broke apart. Their beautiful formation collapsed as ships tried to dodge hundreds of incoming fighters. "Main batteries, target their flagship," he ordered. "Show them what a real warship can do." The Prometheus's massive railguns spoke as one. Each barrel fired around the size of a car, accelerated to incredible speed. The alien flagship's shields flashed purple as they tried to stop the incoming shells. They failed. The rounds smashed through, tearing huge holes in the alien ship. For the first time in their history, the Drachnids were facing an enemy they hadn't underestimated. They had underestimated humanity. Engineer Marcus Thompson ran through the corridors of the Prometheus, red alert lights flashing overhead. The massive carrier had taken its first hits from the Drachnid fleet, but this was exactly what they had built her for. "Damage report," he called out as he entered Repair Station 7. A dozen engineers worked at their stations, monitoring the ship's systems. "Hull breach in Section 34, but the automatic seals are holding," reported Technician Lisa Brown. "Their energy weapons are strong, but our armor is stronger. Multiple layers are doing their job, sir." The entire ship shook as another alien blast hit them. On his tablet, Thompson watched the damage control systems at work. The Prometheus's hull wasn't just thick. It was smart. Each hit was absorbed by layers of reactive armor, spreading the energy out harmlessly. "Sir," called out Engineer Pete Rogers, "you need to see this. The aliens are getting frustrated. Their weapons aren't doing the damage they expected." Thompson looked at the sensor readings. The Drachnid ships were increasing power to their weapons, making their purple beams brighter and stronger. But they didn't understand. Against the Prometheus's armor, it was like using a blowtorch to try to cut down a mountain. Status of our point defense grid, Thompson asked as another shake ran through the ship. All systems working at 98% efficiency, Brown replied. Their missiles can't get through our defensive screen. The alien commanders are getting angry. We can hear it in their transmissions. Outside in space, the battle rage. The Drachnid fleet had broken into smaller groups, trying to surround the massive human carrier, but this just made them easier targets for the Prometheus's fighter squadrons. Emma Stone's voice came over the general channel. Green Squadron reporting multiple hits. Their shields aren't designed to stop physical weapons. Every hit weakens them. Thompson smiled as he watched the battle data. The aliens had built their shields to stop energy weapons like their own, expecting humanity to copy their technology. Instead, humanity had gone back to basics. Railguns, missiles, and good old-fashioned bullets. Another blast rocked the ship. Hull temperature rising in Section 45, called out Rogers. They're concentrating fire on one spot. Rotate the ship 15 degrees, Thompson ordered. Let them hit fresh armor. And prepare repair teams. Show them why we built this ship so big. The Prometheus turned slowly, presenting undamaged armor to the alien attacks. Inside her massive hull, damage control teams moved with practiced efficiency. This was what they had trained for. Look at these readings, Brown said excitedly. The aliens are using more power trying to hurt us than we're using to run our whole ship. Their efficiency-focused designs are working against them. Thompson checked the power readings. She was right. The Drachnids had built their ships to be elegant and efficient, but against something as big and tough as the Prometheus, they were wearing themselves out. Status report from the bridge, Rogers announced. Admiral Walker says our main guns have destroyed 3 of their cruisers. Their shields couldn't handle the kinetic impact. The ship's internal speakers crackled with Admiral Walker's voice. All hands, maintain battle stations. The enemy is learning that bigger isn't always primitive. Sometimes it's just better. Thompson felt another impact, weaker this time. The aliens were learning the hard way. Their beautiful energy weapons, so efficient against shields like their own, struggled against simple armor and distance. Repair teams to Section 67, he ordered. Show everyone why humanity chose to build big. Throughout the massive ship, repair crews moved with purpose. While the aliens' elegant ships struggled with every hit they took, the Prometheus just kept fighting. Sometimes the simplest solutions were the best ones, and humanity had built the biggest, toughest, simple solution in the galaxy. The Drachnid admiral stood on the bridge of his flagship, his scaled hands gripping the command rail as another impact rocked his ship. Around him, warning lights flashed as more human fighters attacked from multiple directions. Impossible, he shouted as another cruiser exploded. Their primitive weapons cannot be this effective. Order the fleet to maintain formation. But his ordered formation was already breaking apart. The human fighters, launched from that impossibly large carrier, were everywhere. Each fighter was small and weak on its own, but there were hundreds of them. On the Prometheus, Admiral Walker watched the chaos unfold. Status of enemy fleet, he asked, his voice calm despite the battle raging around them. 15 enemy ships destroyed, reported Lieutenant Harris. Their tight formation is falling apart. They're trying to spread out, but their ships keep getting in each other's way. They've never had to dodge so many attacks at once. The massive view screen showed the battle clearly. The Drachnid ships, with their beautiful purple shields, were designed to fight in formation, supporting each other with overlapping energy weapons. But against swarms of fighters and the Prometheus's huge railguns, their tactics were failing. Sir, called Emma Stone over the command channel. Green Squadron has disabled another cruiser. Their engines are dead, and they're drifting into their own ships. Walker nodded. The aliens' perfect formation had become a trap. Their disabled ships, too large to move quickly, were blocking their fleet's movement. Every time they tried to regroup, the human fighters would strike from a new direction. Preparing main battery for another salvo. Weapons Officer Dan Cooper announced. Target locked on their command ship. The Prometheus's massive railguns fired again. The rounds, each weighing several tons, crossed space in seconds. The Drachnid flagship's shields flared bright purple as they tried to stop the attack. 3 rounds hit. The alien ship's shields collapsed, and its beautiful hull cracked open. Emergency force fields flickered as atmosphere vented into space. Enemy Admiral is sending a fleet-wide transmission, Communications Officer Reed reported, patching it through. The alien's voice was filled with disbelief. This cannot be happening. We are the Drachnid Collective. We have ruled space for centuries. How can these primitives? Another hit cut off his transmission. The Drachnid fleet was in complete disarray now. Ships collided as they tried to dodge fighter attacks. Their energy weapons, so deadly against shields like their own, barely scratched the Prometheus's thick armor. Look, Harris pointed to the tactical display. Some of their ships are turning away. They're running. It was true. For the first time in their history, Drachnid ships were fleeing from battle. Their perfect formation was gone, their confidence shattered by humanity's primitive tactics. All fighters, focus on their retreat path, Walker ordered. Don't let them regroup. Commander Martinez, bring your ships around to cut off their escape route. Emma's voice came over the comm again. Green Squadron confirms. We see them running. Never thought I'd see the day when aliens would flee from human ships. The Prometheus moved forward, its huge form pushing through space like a mountain come to life. More Drachnid ships turned to flee as they realized their weapons couldn't stop it. Enemy Admiral is transmitting again, Reed reported. He's ordering a full retreat. They're giving up. The bridge crew cheered as the remaining Drachnid ships turned and fled at full power. Their elegant purple-hulled vessels, once so threatening, now ran from the combined might of human fighters and their massive carrier. Should we pursue? Harris asked. Walker shook his head. No. Let them run. Let them tell others what happened here today. Let everyone know that humanity isn't as primitive as they thought. The Prometheus held position, its fighters forming up around it like a protective swarm. The mighty ship had proved that sometimes the simplest solution was the best, and humanity had just taught that lesson to the entire galaxy. 2 weeks after the battle, Admiral Walker stood in the Prometheus's main hangar bay. The massive space had been converted for a different purpose today. Instead of fighters, it held a long conference table, and instead of pilots, it would soon hold alien diplomats. Are you sure about this, sir? Commander Martinez asked, adjusting his dress uniform. The Drachnids did try to conquer us. Walker looked around the hangar. Engineers had polished every surface until it shone. The Prometheus's battle damage had been repaired, but they'd left one damaged hull plate visible through the hangar's force field, a reminder of what had happened. Sometimes the best victory isn't destroying your enemy, Walker replied. It's making them into friends. The alien ships appeared right on schedule, 3 diplomatic vessels, their purple hulls gleaming. They were small ships, only 500 meters long. As they approached the Prometheus, their crews must have felt like boats pulling up to a continent. They're requesting permission to dock, reported Officer Reed from his station. Their scan shows they're unarmed, as agreed. Walker nodded. Grant them permission. Let's show them how humanity treats honored guests. The alien ships landed gracefully in the massive hangar. Their design was still beautiful, Walker thought. Humanity could learn from their technology, just as they could learn from humanity's practical solutions. The Drachnid ambassador emerged first, followed by representatives from 6 other alien species. They all stopped, looking up in awe at the hangar bay's ceiling far above them. Welcome aboard the UES Prometheus, Walker said, stepping forward. We're honored to host this peace conference. The Drachnid ambassador, still staring at the massive space around him, spoke carefully. We owe humanity an apology. We thought you were primitive because you didn't copy our technology. We were wrong. Lieutenant Emma Stone, standing at attention nearby, watched as the aliens tried not to look nervous. Just 2 weeks ago, they had threatened to turn Earth's cities to glass. Now they were guests on humanity's greatest ship. The collective has ruled space for centuries, the ambassador continued. We became arrogant. We thought our way was the only way, but you taught us otherwise. Engineer Thompson, who had helped organize the conference, smiled as he heard this. The repair crews had worked extra shifts to make the ship perfect for this meeting. They wanted to show the aliens that humanity could build beautiful things too, not just effective ones. We don't seek revenge, Walker replied, gesturing for the aliens to sit at the conference table. Humanity wants peace, but we also want respect. You've seen what we can do when threatened. The ambassador nodded quickly. Above them, through the force field, they could see the damaged hull plate, proof of the battle that had changed everything. The other species want to open trade negotiations, the ambassador said. Your different approach to technology has made them curious. They want to learn from you. Walker smiled. This was even better than he had hoped. And we want to learn from you. Your energy weapons, your shield technology. They're impressive. Perhaps we can combine our knowledge. Make something better than either of us could alone. The aliens relaxed slightly as they realized humanity wasn't going to demand revenge. Through the hangar's force field, Earth was visible as a beautiful blue marble in the distance. A new age of cooperation. The ambassador agreed. Though I must ask, are there more ships like this one? Walker's smile widened slightly. That information is classified. Let's just say that humanity believes in being prepared. But we also believe in peace through strength. As the peace conference began, Walker looked around the hangar one more time. The Prometheus had been built for war, but today she served peace. She stood as a symbol, a reminder that humanity shouldn't be underestimated, but also shouldn't be feared. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity wasn't primitive. They were practical. And sometimes, the practical solution was to build the biggest ship anyone had ever seen.